So before we go into meditation, I'd like to share a few ideas with you. Normally I do this in the reverse. I normally do the meditation and then we talk about what happened, but I'd like to share some of these ideas with you because I think it will deepen your meditative experience. So I want to talk for a moment about the heart, which you have over the last week had an intimate experience of. It's very helpful to understand that there are different layers of the heart. And of course, you understand we're not talking about the pumping organ, but there are layers to the heart center. And I want to talk about them this morning so that you understand what's happening there in your system. So we could say that the heart has different layers. The surface layer is the emotional heart. And that has been very full lately, hasn't it? What you have to understand about the emotional heart is because we are not actually separate, there is really no clear boundary between your emotional heart and my emotional heart. We'd like to think that there were. We'd like to protect ourselves. But isn't it been very clear to you over the last week that if you just touch in on your heart at all, you're not only feeling your own emotion, but the emotion that's just like thick in the atmosphere. Sadness and grief and despair and fear are as thick in the atmosphere right now as the smoke. And if you have any kind of like sensitivity to your heart at all, you'll pick that up immediately. In fact, in a catastrophic event like this, it's very difficult not to feel the weight of it. We can kind of get by with it. We can hear news from afar. We can, one thing happens over here to the side, we can kind of ward that off. But when it's as big as this, and you're present with yourself, it's impossible to miss. So what's important is that we learn how to work skillfully with this. Right? So it's very important to understand that's just the surface of the heart. The depth of the heart is something very different. So let's label this the emotional heart. And we'll label this the spiritual heart. Deeper in, behind the emotional heart, is the spiritual heart. Now what's vitally important for you to understand here is the spiritual heart in your system, in your chest, so to speak, is actually a focal point of the great heart, the universal heart, the divine heart. You're not separate from that. This opens up to infinity. Right? This opens up to all the qualities of the great heart. Your heart is connected to this. It's not just connected, it's an expression of, it's a focal point of. Do you get what I'm saying? Now, most of the time we're not aware of this, and in our culture we're not taught this, and oftentimes we're not experiencing this because we're so overwhelmed with, preoccupied with, or trying to distract from what's happening on the front end. So we have a tendency, we've learned when emotion is intense to shut the heart down. We think that's going to protect us from the intensity of what's streaming in. But actually it doesn't. There isn't a barrier that we can construct that will cut us off from the emotional energy that's in the collective consciousness. So the only thing shutting our heart down does is it constructs a barrier between these two levels. So now I'm not feeling this so much, but also I've lost access to all the resources here. Now, the majority of people in our culture live their lives in this manner, cut off from this entirely, trying to manage feelings through a variety of different distractions, shutting down, resisting, repressing, staying super busy, all the host of things that we can preoccupy ourselves with. These are distractions only. They don't actually slow down or cut off the flow of emotional energy coming to us. We are part of the larger whole. We are a part of human consciousness, not apart from human consciousness. So whatever is going on in human consciousness is going to be felt in our system. That's the nature of it. So the question is whether or not we're going to work skillfully with that, or whether or not we're going to spend our life trying to resist and repress this. So it's vitally important that we understand it, especially in a time like this, when emotion is so huge. Right? It's very important for you to understand that the emotion you're feeling in your heart isn't your emotion. The idea of a your and a my is actually a superficial idea. In reality, it's a we, it's an us. We're not actually separate. And you know, times like this, catastrophic events like this, bring that out. Notice how we have kind of like come together as a community and poured out. I've been walking my mom around. She and my dad lost their home, and I've been walking her around to all the different agencies and all the different things to do. And everybody that we have met, everybody that we have talked to, has just been so gracious and so open-hearted and so kind, right? And my mother has made each and every one of them cry. She's about this big. And after they help, she's just like, tears are, and she comes around, she says, I have to give you a hug. She made our insurance carrier, the man who does all the insurance, cry the other day. Big burly man who's just used to staying to business. And she went over to him and gave him a big hug, and he just cried, you know, because the heart is open. Right? These kind of events have a heart-opening, a heart-breaking, and a heart-opening effect. So the meditation we're going to do this morning is going to work with this side, and it's going to open to this side. Right? So we could say that the great characteristics... All right, that's going to stay there. The great characteristics that we're going to open to is awareness and love. We're going to bring awareness and love to bear on everything that's coming in. If we can work skillfully with this, we'll lose all of our fear about it. I'd like to suggest that we're actually here on the planet at this time for this purpose. To help work with human consciousness. Your heart is a filter. You know, if you put a filter into the flow of a river, you know, it's going to pick stuff up. Your heart is a filter in the flow of human consciousness. Right? And that's purposeful. The design is from your soul's level, from this level, the design is to actually work skillfully and to resolve that emotional energy that you catch, that you pick up. And in so doing, actually help to lift and raise human consciousness. This is a profound gift that we have, an amazing calling that we have. And I hope that by the end of the satsang this morning, you'll have a greater feel for actually how to do it. Does anybody have any questions about this? Is this relatively clear? Yes, please.
So, kind of being stuck in the emotional part of it, just wondering how to release, or it's just so overwhelming.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
So it's overwhelming because it comes in and we bind it.
Okay.
We resist it. So we intensify the pain of emotional energy when we do two things. Either we resist it and repress it, or we identify with it. In other words, we become it. We think, oh, this is what I am. Right? And many of you have heard me say many times, we have language for this. We have language that identifies with our experience. I am afraid. I am angry. I am upset. I am lonely. Do you see how this language connects us and identifies us with the emotional energy? So if I'm identified, either if I repress it or identify with it, I can't work skillfully with it. And it gets stuck in the system. So not only are we working with whatever energy is produced by how our mind is interpreting things. And not only are we working with the karmic storehouse of energies that have been repressed over lifetimes, but we're also working with everything that's coming in from human consciousness. That's what the emotional heart picks up. If we don't have a skillful way to work with this, it's going to be incredibly overwhelming.
So are you also saying that the breaking of the heart is allowing it to open to move to the spiritual side?
So that's absolutely what happens if there's a readiness for that, if there's a ripeness for that. Because sometimes heartbreak just creates a greater callous. And that will take place until we come to a place in our evolution where the heartbreak actually opens us to what's behind, the great potential of who and what we are. Remember that all life events, and I want to say this very sensitively because I know that there are people in this room who have lost your home and your possessions, and so I want to say this very sensitively. All life events are designed by the great universal will, by divine will, to help us to awaken. All life events serve the process of consciousness waking up to its true nature. That's all life events. The most difficult and hurtful, and also the most joyful. At all ends of the spectrum, that's the purpose of life events. We can learn to collaborate with that. Now, if we resist it, of course, then usually things have to become a little stronger, a little more intense, right? Until it brings us to a place where we can no longer actually resist it. Right? And then there's this opportunity, at least a small window of opportunity, right? Until the heart gets closed and calloused again, there's this opportunity to open and to discover that we're much, much more than we thought before the crisis. All right, so if there's any more questions, I'll answer them. If not, we're going to go into the meditation. We're going to work with both of these sides. Now, at first, this is going to take a little courage, because I'm going to ask you to feel your feelings. And I'm going to ask you to notice how the feelings you're feeling connect you to everything that's streaming through in human consciousness right now. And right now, especially because the heart is so kind of raw because of what's happening, you'll be able to feel this quite intensely. Now stay with the process, because we're going to open to this. If there was no this to open to, this would be overwhelming, for sure. Because there is this to open to, then there is a purpose. And we can bring and activate that purpose in the working with this. We bring awareness and love to what we're experiencing. And it transmutes it. It actually liberates it back to its original form, which is universal consciousness. Everything, whether bodies or thoughts or feelings, are expressions of the one universal consciousness. So an emotion like fear is actually an expression of universal consciousness stuck in a certain form, the form of fear. Now, if we work skillfully with that and bring awareness and love to bear on that, we liberate that form, and the consciousness returns to its original state, which is pure awareness and love. Now, don't get caught up in all the theories of this. Let's do it and experience it. So sit up nice and straight. And let's hold this intention to open to the emotional energy that's in our system, that's in the collective consciousness right now. And we're holding the intention to bring awareness and love to bear on this emotional energy, for the purpose of resolving and dissolving it back into the light, which is its original state. So first of all, let's spend a moment doing a little grounding. Bring all of your awareness down into your root chakra, down to the perineum. One of the ways I like to find my root chakra is to trace the triangle formed by the pubic bone and the two sit bones. And the center of that will be the perineum. And that's where I'd like you to concentrate your energy right now. And just feel as though the root chakra is very resonant with the planet, with the earth. Perhaps even see a cord or a root of energy drop down out of the root chakra and into the earth, deeply into the earth. So that you feel a sense of being stable and solid. Feet, legs, buttocks, fused even with the earth and its energy. Its stable, supportive energy. So that you have the sense that the energy of the body-mind has become like a pyramid, and the root chakra and the buttocks and legs and feet are the bottom of this pyramid, wide and strong and stable. The crown chakra is the top of the pyramid. The root chakra is this wide base, like the base of Mount Shasta. Now, bring your awareness back up into the heart center. And asking for help from grace and guidance. From the great heart that is our source and true self. Let's open our awareness to what's here in the heart. The tender, raw energies that are present there. A willingness to open the heart to these energies. And let go of trying to figure out what of these energies is yours and what is someone else's. It's irrelevant. And through the energy that you're feeling in your emotional heart, open to the stream of energy that's moving through. The stream of the collective consciousness. And right now, right here in Butte County, there's tremendous fear and loss and grief and despair. And are you willing to just open yourself to these energies? Just to be aware of what's there. Even if you try to stay closed and shut down to these energies, they're still penetrating into your heart. So it's much better to actually open to what's coming in, to open to what's present in the heart. So the emotional heart is like the antechamber, the waiting room. And we have two choices as to how to work with the emotion here in the antechamber of the emotional heart. We can either resist them and repress them, or we can bring love to them. When we're completely identified as a separate self, as a separate ego self, it's easy to do what we have learned to do in this culture, which is just to try to shut the heart down and not feel, to push the energies away. And we push them down into the cellar and they get stuck in our system for lifetimes, negatively affecting how we feel about ourselves and the kind of energy that we attract into our life. Because what's doing the attracting is the energy of this repressed material. So let's not repress this fear, this sadness. Let's keep it right here in the emotional heart. Keep the heart open. Make the heart a refuge for difficult or painful emotional energies. You can do this because you are actually what's behind. You are actually awareness and love. So see for a moment if you can just begin to watch the energies as energy, not as yours. Let go of interpretation, let go of storytelling, let go of the narrative for just a little while. And watch these energies, these emotional energies, as just patterns of energy operating in the emotional heart, present in the emotional heart. And let the awareness that's watching be characterized with great compassion, great kindness. Even really intense emotions like despair and hopelessness. A feeling of being abandoned by God. A feeling of being alone in the world. Touch these energies with the light of awareness and compassion. And again, you can do this because you are not these emotions. These emotions do not define you. These energies are simply moving through your system. And it is one of your soul's purpose in this lifetime, at this particular point in human history, to learn to work with these emotional energies, to touch them with awareness and love, and to resolve and dissolve them back into light. Now, have a sense that there's a portal or a door that separates the emotional heart from the spiritual heart that's behind it. And with your intention, allow that door to open. To invite in the profound resources of the spiritual heart. Light and love and grace and healing power and strength and perseverance and understanding and wisdom and inspiration and guidance. Let these qualities pour in from behind. Let them pour into the emotional heart. Let them pour in from the spiritual heart and infuse all the energies being held in the emotional heart. Just have the sense that there is something profound and powerful, something of an incredibly high nature, a high frequency or vibration, flowing in from back behind the heart into the place where all of this emotion has been felt. Bring your attention to the crown chakra. Visualize the crown chakra as a closed lotus bud. Could be any flower of your choice. Classically, it's lotus with 1,000 petals. Now just with your intention, allow that lotus bud to open. 1,000 white petals stretching up and laying back. And into the opening chakra flows light. Again, this is just another way to feel our opening to the spiritual heart, the great heart, the universal heart, the Divine Mother's heart. Visualize the light pouring in through the crown and into the emotional heart, into these emotions that are in your system. Simultaneously, concentrate on the space between the shoulder blades, the back of the heart center. And with your intention, allow that to open. So that in from behind the body, there is another stream of light coming into the heart center. You could think of the stream coming down through the crown chakra as pure awareness, universal infinite intelligence, supreme consciousness, and the energy coming in through the back of the heart as pure unconditional love. And these streams of light converge in the heart. They infuse and transmute all the energies held in the heart. Let your sense of the heart center continue to grow and expand with this light. Let the energy field of the heart center continue to grow until it feels as though the body is in the heart rather than the heart is in the body. This heart that is now full of light. Infinite intelligence and unconditional love. The light continues to pour in through the crown and in through the back. Just as a permanent download of awareness and love, touching everything in the system. And everything it touches, it heals and transmutes. Now also have the feeling that this radiant energy in the heart begins to extend out, radiate out to everyone that you're connected to. Family, friends, people that you feel close with, connected to, but also just associates, perhaps neighbors that you didn't know so well. People that you've had encounters with this week. A person that checked you out at Safeway, or someone that stood in the line with you. Anyone that you've had any contact with whatsoever. Anyone that you feel any kind of connection to whatsoever. Through that connection, let this light flow. Holding the intention for this light to be of great blessing to them, to sustain them and to heal them, to help them through this time. Just for a moment, take this next leap, which is, just for a moment, drop the identity of a separate body-mind. And let yourself, just for a moment, become this light of pure awareness and love. Feel yourself to be boundaryless and spacious. Feel yourself to be whole and complete. Feel how you are free of fear and angst and sadness, as you are the light that holds everything within it. Just continue to let go the sense of having a body and a name and a personal history, just for a moment. You can go back to that. Just be the light of pure awareness, pure knowing, pure love, pure compassion. And now, as this open, spacious, vast field of pure awareness and love, focus your attention on the emotional energy field that's Butte County right now. Focus your attention onto the shelters that are full to the brim. The places like the Walmart parking lot. Let your light shine into these spaces. The light that you are. The light that sees and honors and loves and holds with the deepest compassion. These beings, these precious people who are lost in their suffering. Just let the light that you are radiate through these spaces. Hold the intention for the light that you are to flow to every family that is hurting. Families that have lost loved ones. Families of the loved ones that are still missing. A willingness for the light that you are to be present in the midst of this suffering and to shine. Not to shine so that you don't feel the suffering, but in response to the suffering. The awareness that you are sees and knows and feels everything that's happening. And the love that you are responds to that. Fills that, holds that, embraces that, transmutes that. Hold the intention for light to continue to shine into this, the darkness of suffering. But just for a moment, rest in yourself, rest in the light. Come back into the sense of being in this chest. But it's as though the light of the sun, or the sun itself, has come and taken residence in your chest. And open to the realization that the light is what you are. The body-mind is the vehicle, the instrument. The light of open-hearted awareness and love is what you are. Rest as that for a moment longer. You are always in the light. Whatever darkness may flow to you, may come before you, whatever darkness you're called to work with, you are always in the light. You are always the light. as we learn to come to suffering, ours and those of others, with open-hearted awareness and love. We come into our soul's purpose. And collaborate with divine grace in the uplifting and awakening of human consciousness. Take a nice deep breath. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the way in which the root chakra is